Hey, welcome to the Stinkin Truth Podcast alongside Mike Evans. I am Mark Schlereth. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We appreciate you for doing it. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm just sitting here thinking how cool Sean McVay is. Do you see where the Rams did their mini camp?
Yes.
Maui.
Yeah.
Not
Horrible.
not Latrobe, Pennsylvania, or some backwater place, where'd you guys, Carlisle, Pennsylvania? No, Maui.
Yeah, horrible idea, by the way. Just a god-awful idea. Like, first off, it's mini camp. It's not like lollipop camp, all right? So we're going to pack up and we're going to fly out to Maui. Are you kidding me? So I don't have my locker. I don't have my locker room. I don't have my training room. I don't have my weight room. I've got to go out to Maui to have these 2 practices a day, meet in Maui. And then, God forbid, you bring my wife along on it. It's a business trip for crying out loud. So I get, oh, yeah. What are we going to do after you're done practice? Can we have lunch? No, you know what? I'm at work. Leave me alone, woman. Like, I mean, could you imagine? Like, one, you're not in football shape. You're in training shape, right? Then all of a sudden you put your hand in the dirt. You're in a stance. Your hips hurt, right? Your hamstrings are a little bit sore. You're tender from, hitting people. You got a jammed up finger. As soon as you get done with practice, you're all wrapped in ice and you're like, when you getting home to the hotel? I want to go shopping. I want to go out to dinner. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Like, oh my God, for crying out. Like, this is a horrible, horrible idea. Absolutely horrible. I mean, I can't even imagine how miserable I would be on a minicamp trip to Maui. Give me a break.
Folks, he's not kidding about any of this. He would rather be in a college dormitory in Greeley, Colorado. Look it up if you're not familiar with it, than being in Hawaii. No joke.
Oh, dude, when I was with the Redskins in 1992, this was before they started playing regular season games over the pond, right? Like, so we go to London to play the Niners. So we're in London, and the Redskins and Joe Gibbs like, oh, it's going to be a nice trip. We're bringing our wives, right? What freaking mistake that was. So, like, you fly across, like, you're up all night, you can't sleep, you land, right? Then you get ready, you go to practice. So now we're busting across London because they don't have any places for us to play, like, like where you could have 80 some odd guys on each side, right? So we're dressing in gymnasiums. We're walking out through the park where there's a bunch of soccer people playing soccer for God only knows what reason. And then you're practicing 2 times against the Niners, right? You're beating the living piss out of one another. You're getting back on the bus. You're busting back to the hotel. And all the wives are standing outside. When are we going to dinner? Let's go to dinner. We made reservations. We need to go to Harrods. We need to go to Big Ben's and do some sightseeing. I'm like, I just want to lay down. I want to lay down. I'm beat to shit. I don't want to go out. Leave me alone, woman. And so that was my experience with that. So good. Like, this probably cost the Rams the Super Bowl chance. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know what's
probably going to cost them.
I'm curious what it may cost you. Can we make sure we get an advanced copy of this podcast out to Mrs. Schlereth, Mrs. S, as soon as possible? Let's check.
Hey, Mrs. S knows exactly how I feel about that London trip.
Let us. We haven't checked in on the Cowboys in a while. They made some news this week. Brian Schottenheimer coming out and talking about the need. Boy, talk about putting the cart before the horse. The need to get his coaches ready to be head coaches because they're going to do so well. The league's going to be coming after his assistants.
Yeah, he just flat out. I listened to his whole press conference, and I kind of liked it. Like, Shotty was in rare form. He was just like, dude, like, we're gonna win here. Like, we're gonna win. It's reestablishing the culture. But hey, man, I'm getting my young coaches, my coordinators, and my assistant coaches. Like, I'm getting them ready to go. Like, they're holding meetings. They're doing like, hey, man, today we're gonna have the D line coach, the wide receiver coach, or whatever, and head the offensive meeting up. And I got to get these guys ready. We got to put assignments on them. We got to get them. It's coaching the coaches, but getting them ready because hey, when you have success and we're going to win, like people are going to come over and pilfer from your coaching staff. Like, and I'm telling you, Mike, I actually love Shoddy. I loved one. I think he's a damn good coach. And I think he's a really good play caller, right? A good coordinator. I think he knows and understands the value of running the football, understands how to get that done, understands how to attack you. One of the things I like studying him, this is back when he was in Seattle, was the offensive coordinator. Really good job of fishing for information, right? Getting in certain formations to see how you're going to play those formations. And then also using multiple schemes or multiple kind of plays out of identical formations. So if I get you to play, like if we get into a formation, let's call it, strong right slot. And I'm going to get to see how you're going to play that formation or west right. We're going to get into this formation and we're going to see, are you bringing corners over? What are you doing? Are you going to play man-to-man zone? We're going to get these tells and then running a play out of that, running multiple plays out of that, and basically getting you to say, hey, man, I've got to defend this. I've got to take advantage of this, or I've got to take this away, and getting you to take that away and then setting something up off of that. I think he does a really good job with that stuff. But I love the bravado, and it wasn't arrogant. I watched the whole press conference. It wasn't arrogant. It was just matter of fact. And I always tell you this, and I've told you this for 9 years. I'm always concerned about how a guy, and it's very rarely you're ever wrong. Maybe Nick Sirianni is the only time where he was really bad. But he was bad, and he was bad at the beginning of the year. They go 2-5, and then all of a sudden flip it around. Some of that is delegating authority to other guys. But his press conference was horrible, right? And he's turned out to be a really rock solid coach. Yep. But most of the guys who can't command a press conference if you can't command a press conference in front of the media, how are you going to command the room of 80 guys in minicamp or 53 guys that are men that you have to direct and you have to be in control of? How are you going to command your football team if you can't command, a meeting in front of a podium with the media? Like, I always get concerned about that. And I go back to Ben McAdoo when he took over as the Giants, and he was in this 3X jacket that he borrowed from one of his offensive linemen that didn't fit. It was amazing. It was a total embarrassment. I think about Adam Gase when he was with the Jets, and you're like, oh my gosh. Even our own Nathaniel Hackett, howdy doody. I mean, in Denver,
Jonathan Gannon.
Sure. Yeah. Jonathan Gannon. So, although I love Jonathan Gannon,
I know you do.
But yeah, it's always one of those things. So I looked at the press conference from Shoddy, and I was like, good for you, Brian, man. Good for you. And he's had that experience. Grew up under his father, Marty Schottenheimer, who, Shoddy knows football and he knows kind of how to do things. And I just like the bravado, man. I like the way he addressed, hey, man, we're going to have success. Just believe it, because it's going to happen. I like that about him.
Well, let's stay with the Cowboys. Dak Prescott said something interesting. He came out and said he's only concerned with winning a championship. He's not concerned about his legacy or anything like that, how people will remember him. Well, it seems to me that talk about killing two birds with one stone, or PETA approved feeding two birds with one scone.
Right.
Seems like if you win a championship, you'll go a long way towards taking care of your legacy.
Yeah, it's always interesting, like young players, and I always say this about young players: build your career, your brand will follow. Like your brand will take care of itself, right? You'll get opportunities from a branding standpoint if you just take care of your business on the football field. Like Peyton Manning played in the smallest market. He played in Indianapolis, a tiny little market,
Mm-hmm.
took care of his business, kept working, and all of a sudden exploded. And then, of course, he became great
Yep.
at commercials and great at guest appearances and hosting and all those things. And like it's just parlayed it into this, multi-$100 million, Omaha Productions company, and everything else that he does. It's just an amazing story. But he took care of his responsibilities as a football player. He became great. He became the sheriff, and the brand built after that. I love the process by Dak Prescott of saying, "Hey, man, there's one concern and one concern only. I'm not worried about Pro Bowls. I'm not worried about All Pro. I'm not worried about Hall of Fames. I'm not worried about, being a pitch man. I'm not worried about any of that crap. I'm worried about winning a championship. And if I win a championship in Dallas, all that other stuff will take care of itself."
Do you see it? Do you see it with him? Do you
With
see
Dak,
do you see greatness? Do you see does he pass the confetti test? Do you see confetti falling down on his head?
I do 100%.
Yeah.
Like I've always been a Dak Prescott fan. I know he's kind of polarizing. There's a lot of difference of opinion. Like he can't win when in the playoffs, and he can't get it done when it counts, and oh, he's just compiling numbers, but in crunch situations he can't manage it. I've been a Dak Prescott fan since he came into this league, and his first offensive coordinator was a good friend of mine that I played college football with, named Scott Linehan.
Yep.
And I was very impressed with him. So I reached out to Scott his rookie year, and I was like, "Hey, man, what is it about this kid?" And he said one thing that's always resonated with me. He goes, "This kid has got an old soul. Like he's a professional. And he's just got this way about him of not getting too high or too low, managing expectations, working his ass off, and just being steady Eddie so other people around him can have some success." And I love that terminology. It always rang true with me. He's an old soul, and I think you can see that in the way he plays. So I appreciate Dak, and I do believe he's got something about him that says championship to me, more so than a lot of other guys that we follow on a week-to-week basis in this league.
Talking about building your brand or build your career, then your brand will follow. Shedeur Sanders has rubbed some people the wrong way because, according to them, he's trying to build the brand first before building the career. Stink, I want you to call your shot right now as we sit here middle of June. Who's going to be the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback week 1? Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, or Shedeur Sanders?
I think it'll be Joe Flacco. And I mean, it'll be Joe Flacco, I believe, for a while. I mean, he is 40 years old, right? So moving forward, but he's got the most experience. He understands that offense. He led that offense to the playoffs a couple of years ago under Kevin Stefanski. I think he gives you the best chance to win early. Now, obviously, if you're losing and you're not competing in that AFC North division that has, I mean, Baltimore is always going to be top notch, right? Cincinnati, if they can ever sign a defensive player for them, like offensively, they've got unbelievable weaponry and all that stuff, right? And Joe Burrow, who is great. Pittsburgh, we know Mike Tomlin's history, never being under 500. Now they've got Aaron Rodgers. What is he going to be? We're about to find out. But you look right now, and everybody and their brother's uncle would say the Cleveland Browns are fourth in that division, and there's nobody that's going to argue that or try to put them ahead of just about anybody else.
Then why play Joe Flacco then?
Well, because I think they look at themselves like, hey, we got a pretty good defense. We've got a good offense. We can run the ball. Like, we've got a chance to compete. And what I'm saying is the Browns will look at themselves like, we got a chance to compete. So they'll start Flacco until such time that they look at themselves and they're 1-5 or 2-6 or something of that nature. And then they'll go, okay, now it's time to figure out where we're going. Is it Kenny Pickett? I mean, what is this? He was the 20th overall pick, and this is his third team, right?
Yeah.
He was in Philly last year. He started in Pittsburgh this year in Cleveland. I think if they start the season, like I said, 2-6 ish, then you're going to see them make a change. Whether it's Shador, Kenny Pickett, or Dylan Gabriel, I'm not 100% sure, but you'll see them move on from Joe Flacco if they start the season poorly.
See, it would seem to me because Flacco, the success that he has had the last couple stops has been coming in as that ride to the rescue backup quarterback, as opposed to, hey, you're the guy, you're the starter, right. Go, start the season and take us as far as you can. It would seem like he's better in that other role, but you think he'll get a chance to start right away with the Giants. I guess if you're a Giant fan, should you be encouraged by Brian Dable coming out and saying that Jackson Dart has looked, quote, excellent?
Yeah, I think you've got to be encouraged by that. I think the other thing is, I think at this point in his career, Russ is what he is. And I think that really is, a part-time starter as you're waiting for somebody else to take over.
Bridge guy.
Bridge guy. I think Jameis Winston is the ultimate backup, right? I mean, he's gonna be there with the rah-rah and supporting everybody and doing the things that he does. So he's kind of the ultimate backup. I think the Giants are unique in that Brian Dable and Joe Shane are probably two guys that are on the hottest of hot seats before the season even starts. And so if this is about, and the league is about preservation of jobs sometimes, right? If they sit there and say, man, the best way to preserve my job is show that a young rookie quarterback is making unbelievable strides and we found our guy, right? They had Daniel Jones, they decided to pay him instead of Saquon, essentially.
Yeah.
It didn't work out. They ended up cutting him. He ends up going to Indianapolis. Looks like you can start there. And that's frightening. So, but that's where they are right now because they drafted Anthony Richardson, because they drafted an athlete to play quarterback. So that doesn't look like a great situation. But if I'm Joe Shane and I can sell the ownership on, hey, man, this kid can really play, and look at the progression he made from the start of the season all the way toward the middle and toward the end of the season. And we don't want to break up the continuity of our offensive coaching staff, of the general manager. We're close. We've built a really good defense. Like I could see that argument, and I could make that argument, and I actually could buy that argument. So I one, I don't think that Jameis Winston, not that I don't think, let me rephrase that. I know that Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson aren't your answers.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the answer. Unless the question is, how are we going to go 4-15 or 3-15? I guess it would be, right? 17 game? No, 2-15.
Math.
4. If you go
4-13.
4-13. That's what I was trying to come up with. Yeah, that's 17. Ever since they moved it to 17, Mike, it's been kicking my ass.
Yeah, wait till they go to 18. They'll be going 18 here pretty soon.
That will even it up, though.
Oh, okay.
18 makes sense. 9 is the middle, right, of 18. Right. How do you go 9-8 or 8-9 and there is no middle ground? You can't be 500.
Can't be 500.
Bothers me. And so if you go, if you go 4-13, if you go, if the question is how do you go 4-13? Hey, start Russell Wilson. That would be my answer.
All right. So if it's a matter of when, not if, with Jackson Dart, then if you're looking at your bridge guy ultimately settling into your trusted mentor backup for your young quarterback, who best fills that role? Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston? Because it would seem to me that Jameis would be the better mentor backup than Russ. I think Russ still has visions of grandeur for him, that he still believes that in himself as a starter. I just think Jameis would be better in that role What say you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you're going to go that direction, I wouldn't be surprised to see them cut Russ and keep Jameis and keep Jackson and say, "Hey, man, we're moving in this direction," and then and then keep Tommy Cutlets as a practice squad guy or whatever. Like that's the direction I could see them going if, in fact, they believe that Jackson Dart is ready to take over the reins. And if you use the Denver Broncos as kind of your sounding board, litmus test, whatever you want to call it. Like, look at we look at Bo Nix, and he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Everybody talks about Jaden Daniels, the greatest rookie season of anybody. By the way, Bo Nix threw the second most touchdowns of any quarterback that was a rookie, 29 touchdowns last year, threw for, gosh,
38, I think it was
3,800, almost 4,000 yards. And he started the first 4 or 5 weeks, Mike. It was shaky. It was a little bit shaky. And then he just continued to build and build and build. And this is a Broncos team that had zero running game.
Yeah.
They had no running game. And Bo Nix was their best rushing option. So to do that, and now all of a sudden in Denver, you're like, oh, well, we found our franchise quarterback. Like it's not even a question anymore. Oh, they found their quarterback. Now we're like, hey, what are we going to do with the receiver position?
Right.
What are we going to do with the running back position? How are we going to build this offensive team? Defense is really good. Like that. Like you look at where the Broncos are right now. If you're the Giants and you kind of peer from east to west and you look and take a really kind of microscopic look at everything that Denver did, you've got a great defense just like Denver did last year. You've got a great defense. Like, you've got a young quarterback. You've got Malik Neighbors and some receivers that can really play. Like, why would you not go that direction?
Yep.
Like, if I'm the Giants brass, I am going, dude, listen, there is no future in Russell Wilson. There is no future long-term in Jameis Winston. They're long-term backups at best. Jackson Dart, if we believe in him, he gives us our best option to solve the issues we've had with Daniel Jones for the last 5 years or 6 years or whatever it is. The future is right now. Let's start Jackson Dart. And if you look at their schedule, Mike, really tough start. And then at like week 6 or 7, I don't know what it is, they have New Orleans. And then it's they've got a hard ass schedule. And they play in a division that's got, the Super Bowl champion Eagles, the NFC championship team, Washington, Dallas, who's going to be resurgent with their quarterback coming back. Like, it's not like it gets easier. So why not just start him right off the bat and live with the growing pains? That's my philosophy.
You mentioned Bo Nix. So he's still, and the Broncos fans out there are looking to see what's going to happen with Courtland Sutton, who is easily their most reliable wide receiver, their most productive wide receiver. They have a lot of young guys that they're hopeful but are unproven. Courtland Sutton would like to get a new contract. That hasn't happened yet. Broncos have a few players that are also looking to get contracts. We go all around the NFL. You can find players that are looking to get new deals. Here we are in the middle of June. Should NFL fans be concerned, or what word would you use to describe how you should feel about players who haven't yet got deals done?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One, I worry about just team chemistry, how that guy fits within the locker room. You got to know, like, guys that you can wait on and guys that are really, really important to your team, right? And so you like that's one of those things that none of us know unless you're within that organization.
Right.
Like, you have to know what those glue guys are. And they may not be your best players, but they happen to really kind of unite the defense to the offense to the special teams. They bring it all together. And there's always 2 or 3 core guys. And they may be starters. They may be, your quarterback, or they may be a receiver, or they may be a lineman, or they may whatever. So you better identify who those guys are. That's one. 2, listen. Like, since you go back years to Le'Veon Bell. Like, since that holdout, Hassan Reddick held out 6 games last year, I think, right? You got Chris Jones, who held out for one game and then signed the biggest contract of any interior defensive lineman in league history. Like, you've got some holdouts that last, a game, 2 games, 4 games, 6 games, whatever. But for the most part, nobody wins, right? And you're going to have to pay that guy eventually. I think the issue that I get into is, if you identify a guy, let's take Micah Parsons, for instance.
Right.
You've identified Micah as a core value guy to what you're doing in Dallas, a guy that has great value. And he is, right now, he's allowed to play on the final year of his deal. Like, and you're renegotiating a deal with him right now. Like, you knew Micah 2 years ago was freaking awesome.
Yep.
So now he's probably going to jump over Myles Garrett, who's making $40 million a year. If you re-signed him and made him the top paid guy a year ago, right, at $36 million, now if you want to renegotiate it 2 years from now or a year from now, you've got that. You could free up cap money. Like, letting it go to this point and pushing it all the way to August, like, that to me is, you got Trey Hendrickson, you got TJ Watt, as you mentioned, Myles Garrett already signed. So now you're going to pay if he waits till those guys, he's going to be the highest paid guy. So you've kind of put yourself between a rock and a hard place. And the reason that you can negotiate, not like you're going to get it for free, but the reason you can negotiate a long-term deal that's quote unquote cap friendly, or you can get a hometown discount, is because there's 100% likelihood that you're going to get injured, and injured badly, if you play in the National Football League. So if you come with a year left on the contract and say, hey, let's get this done, guys are apt to do it because they don't want to gamble on their health.
Right.
If you wait in like, let's say Micah Parsons decided to start playing and he gets through 7 games of the season. Well, then you're shit out of luck. You're going to have to franchise the guy, because then he's not going to sign. So, like, I always look at, when should you get that done? The earlier that you identify a guy as a core value guy that is a great player at his position, the earlier you can sign that deal, the better off you are as a franchise, because it holds him under that contract. It gives you salary certainty. And it gives you the opportunity to go to him, 2 years into the deal and go, hey, man, we want to tack some money on the end of this thing. We want to shuffle this around and give ourselves $8, $10, $12 million with the cap relief.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing too is that, I think that there's some value if you want to work out a deal with a player and get ahead of it, do it right before camp starts. It just seems like that sends a little boost of energy through the team, the locker room.
Sure.
Rather than just, doing it in the middle of June, you get a little bit more, I think, bang for your buck if you do it right before camp opens. But, if you're a team like the Broncos and we're talking about 3 or 4 guys that want to get paid, unlikely you're going to do all those deals right before camp. So it might only be 1 or 2 guys gets those deals, and then maybe some other guys need to wait and see what happens during the end of the season, or, maybe run the risk of being franchise tag when it's all said and done.
Yeah, it is. It's a tricky business. There's no question about that. But like I said, if you identify a guy like Courtland Sutton, I understand. You don't want to make him, you don't want to put him in that upper echelon of $28, $30 million, because I just don't believe he's worth that. But hey, man, if you can get him to a long-term deal, he's making 13 right now. If you can get him a long-term, not even a long-term, a 3-year deal, and say you get him around 20-ish, 21 maybe, then you're like, okay, that makes sense to us. But, I'm not paying him $28, $30 million a year, because I just don't think, I look at him as one of those guys. Like, I could probably name 20 guys off the top of my head that I would go, oh yeah, that guy's better than Courtland. Oh, that guy's better. But Courtland's a really good player. Don't get me wrong. But, so he's somewhere between, call it 20 and 30,
right?
20 and 35, somewhere in there.
Right. Yep. I agree. Well, we'll see what happens, and we'll have a lot more to tackle a little bit later on this week. The NFL, never a shortage of stuff to talk about.
No question about it. Mike, for everybody involved in the Stinky Truth podcast, for Mike, myself, thank you so much for making us a part of your day. We'll talk to you a little bit later in the week.